Welcome to the Louchen Bros podcast. This show is hosted by Brian Louchen.
And I am Kevin Louchen, son. We're bros. Talk about nerd stuff. Yeah, sorry, that is influenced by the sense of today's podcast. We're going to be talking about a classic. That movie is Enter the Dragon, the Bruce Lee famous last full movie. And this thing hits home for me. I've been a huge fan, but let me start with the story kind of plot itself in my own version. I love it. A Shaolin monk is seeking revenge and justice for his master, as a former apprentice turned the teachings for evil purposes. That former student is turned to being a crime lord, and he has an island where he holds a tournament every 3 years, and that is really just a front for drug peddling and dealing and prostitutes. So in the process of going to this tournament, the monk ends up also being able to find justice for his sister, who is deceased, and you get that story. And then he kicks the one-handed bitch's goon master's ass. So that's it in a nutshell, right? I fucking love Bruce Lee. I love martial arts. He got me into it. It's just absolutely a childhood thing. I love and appreciate a lot of these Eastern cultures and arts and fighting styles, and just it gets me in the feels because I've always been interested from friends and shows from a kid. So this one's influence not just on me. This is a huge influence of the world. There were so many elements at the time, because this dates back to 1973. And this effect on martial arts, on our Western culture being influenced by Eastern culture and bridging a gap, this is basically the movie that did that. Like, there was times where there was movies being over here and over there, but this really pushed the ideas of martial arts and whatnot, and fighting of different kind of styles, which led to the MMA. I mean, Bruce Lee's at the center point of that, because it was just, kickboxers fight kickboxers, boxing fights boxing, judo and judo. But that's not what he was about. He was about, well, when you're in a real fight, you're not gonna be like, well, if you can't use your feet, I only use my fists. And that was an idea of an element of how his form was more than that. So his influence on the world and what that meant is astronomical for only being a person who lived into his 30s. It's fucking tragedy as far as that goes.
Yeah, so I would like to first start off by saying that I always heard rumors of Bruce Lee being a badass, but never actually seen any movies or clips of him. So this movie was made 50 fucking years ago, but you can immediately understand why he is a legend. And whether or not you've enjoyed the movie or not, as Kevin alluded to, how it culturally impacted other fighting and martial artists for the future. It's so iconic. I mean, I even remember, Kevin, you being a big fan of Jet Li back in the day, and I don't even know...
Jackie Chan, Jet Li. I have at least a handful of martial arts movies, but just in general, the influence has been there for me for a long time. I find it amazing. I loved watching people. And here's the thing. I know this is a weird correlation. I don't dance, nor do I know that I feel like I can. I love watching breakdancing. It's some of the coolest shit in the world. I don't do martial arts. It's not what I do, but I love watching martial arts and action and fighting scenes in that regard.
So what you like about it is, I'm assuming, the art of it, Kev?
The art of it, because I actually don't watch MMA, because MMA is real, and it's meant to be that real, and literally you're gonna have some person punch somebody and they could be out, and then the fight's over.
That's kind of what I don't know if you heard about this. Conor McGregor, he walked into a fight and like literally had like a leg cramp or whatever, or messed up his stuff, and the fight was over in like 6 seconds.
Yeah, stuff like that happens. That's real life, and I get that. Whereas I guess I'm more intrigued by the art form. I think it's beautiful to watch somebody be able to utilize, even if it's the one-person stance, whether they have combat, like weapons, or just, I find it so exhilarating to watch some of this stuff. I don't know. I don't have a good reason. I really appreciate it. It's just like a beautiful thing for me to watch. So being able to put it in a film version is also so fun. It adds to that, and how they do things. This in particular is a 70s one, and 70s kung fu. Let me tell you, boy,
it hits different.
It hits different because they really, and all right, I'll tell why it hits different a little later, but just say sound effects, okay? Like,
oh yeah, we're gonna definitely
we'll get into that.
Kevin might be excited for that category for once, but I'll tell you my experience on kind of like the story and plot going on here. So, the first side of the story was heavily, and when I mean heavily, I'm talking heavily inspired by James Bond, with Lee being the main protagonist. He's a martial artist spy, which, in hindsight, I thought was dumb. I definitely didn't like that aspect of it.
Whoa.
Hold on, let me finish my thoughts, and then I'll let you chime in here. I just don't think it was necessary for the plot at all. So that's why I didn't like it, because the other side of the story that I did like, though, was the premise of him being a Shaolin monk, entering an underground invite martial artists tournaments, on an isolated island with this corrupt master. It could have stayed that freaking basic and just had his family or the master being, killed to want him to join this, even though it was an invite. But again, they could have just kept it being an invite and been that plain to me, and I still would have thought it would have been great and didn't need to have this spy element. But again, that's my take on it. So I'll let you chime in now, Kevin.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I think you may have misinterpreted some of it. All right, and this is why. You are right-ish on what you're saying, but I think you're missing, to me, what was happening, because on one end, yes, these British influence with James Bond is absolutely there. But you have to understand, especially at this time, it's not like the Chinese were like, super highly held around the world, or even Asian cultures in general. You still had the fallout from the wars. The Japanese, the Korean, Vietnam, like that was still happening in the U.S. And this was a means to bridge into the U.S., which is really where a lot of popularity of stuff was going through. So I think that is...
We'll talk about the marketing aspect later for sure.
So there's definitely some of that. But I think what it was is it's relatable in a sense. If you have a character that can kind of be an Asian version of Bond, it will carry over better. So I think there was that. But at the same time, I don't think it was, the Brits came over and said, hey, we got a spying job from you and we want you to do it. I assume the Brits. I don't really remember what they were supposed to be, but they weren't supposed to be American, I don't believe. Like, we got this job we want you to do. Yeah, go ahead and do that. And he's like, okay, no. I think what it was, and this is how I remember it, is the master said, hey, this former guy of ours, he's now kind of a piece of shit, and he's misrepresenting us. Yeah. So I want you to take him out. And then the Brits like, well, if you're gonna do that, we got something for you to look into. And he's like, well, why don't you just do it? And then he's like, well, we can't because we don't really have any power. We don't really do shit. We need some evidence.
Territory.
Yeah.
Out of jurisdiction.
He's like, we're kind of some bitches, and that's why Bruce is like, watch, I'll brush this shit off right quick. No, but so I think if they would have went to him when and just asked, hey, do this, he would have been like, no, I don't give a shit. I think it was like, hey, we want this done, but at the same time, hey, while you're there, go ahead and do this. And that's when they also, you later on get that information supplied. Oh, yeah, the guy that was involved in the death of your sister, he's also there. And that's when he's like, what the? And he loses his shit. So I think it was a dual mutual interest versus they were really trying to do anything. And that way it's like, well, even if one version was justifiable, you have a dual plot to do it. And so to me, that is just them egging the plot, or I guess the reasons to go are just egging each other on, if that's why he wins. So that's how I saw it.
I can definitely see how that added to the reasons of why he would want to actually go and have that backstory element. So I can see that, but also wanting to kind of cater to that American audience,
of course.
So I can see that.
So that's the main plot. But like the sister's death comes into play a little bit to what happened.
I have to ask you about the sister's death because I didn't like her stabbing herself with the glass.
Okay,
like I could understand where if she felt like maybe she was going to get like raped or something like that, but did she have to go out like that? I don't know. Like, I wanted to.
So this is an understanding of a lot of Asian cultures. From my experience, right? Obviously, I've never been to any of these countries, but there is a lot of honor that we don't appreciate anymore. I don't know if it's still this way there now, but they have a history of it. Whereas it is more honorable to take out yourself than to go and live a dishonorable life.
Like the samurai life.
Yes.
Type.
Now, these, I do believe this is Chinese, all Chinese, so there's no samurai in the same sense. The samurais are Japanese. But they have versions of like what a Japanese would be and stuff like, or what a samurai would be. But, so she gets to a point where she realizes she's outnumbered, she can no longer run, and if she stays, at the very least, she's probably going to be raped. If not, she's going to be taken away and put into prostitution and do that. And so for her, taking her life is the best, most honorable way, saying, you're not going to treat me like a piece of shit. I will take control of my own destiny, and that means taking myself out. So even though they didn't kill her literally, they were essentially going to lead, these prostitutes are probably going to die at some point, even if it's not right away. So it's a means of, she knows that happens. She knew it was going to. So that was a way of doing that. So even though she killed herself, it was because the outcome, she knew what that was. So once again, if you I've watched a lot of foreign films in my life, and their take on honor and approaching in life and what is meaningful and how to do things is different than our Western culture. And in fact, I actually like theirs a lot more than I like ours currently these days. But there is some element that I think you were really seeing, and that is where they're trying to form a bridge with this movie. It wasn't the only movie that did it, but this was one of the most pronounced ones, because there's just, outside of the fighting itself, I put something, the banquet party that was there with a lot of the
that was awesome,
the Chinese elements and the wardrobe, the decorations, the dancing dragon, like it's
sumo wrestlers, women, food, dancers, musicians, entertainers. They had everything there.
It is
so cool.
Was it absolutely necessary to show all of that? You could argue maybe it doesn't set the scene if you don't, but one, it's supposed to be once a 3-year party, so you could argue more for it. But I think what it was doing is this was giving a light, a show of this is a culture that we don't have predominantly here. And it was trying to be like, look how intriguing this is in a sense. Now, obviously, it was on the basis that there's prostitution and things, but it wasn't a means of that. It was just a means of trying to show and open the light because, typically even though American movies were here and would make their way over there, like because they would watch them, it wasn't going the other direction. There wasn't a whole lot of Chinese movies making its way over here because a lot of the time, especially at that time, was language barriers. Even if you could do subtitles, which I think they did, it just wasn't as big as a big deal. So Bruce understanding, and he was when it comes to selling yourself, not like selling out, but selling yourself as a product. Holy shit. He understood the business. He understood how to market himself. He understood what it meant to be able to take his life, his teachings, his martial arts, and put it in America and what it would mean. It's like he knew this untapped market and how to get there. The thing is, by learning English, it really ended up doing, even as a broken English, and I do believe the Green Hornet, which he had a role in, was his more of a starter into this. And once he knew he was here, he knew he could explode if he could get his love for this passion of martial arts and life of Chinese culture here. In fact, there's actually movies even within the last decade or so. There were a couple other martial artists, but in general, there were a lot of people that did not like Bruce Lee bringing the Asian culture and martial arts over here. Oh yeah, there's a movie. I don't have it right now, but there's a movie where he actually was supposedly fought. Oh God, this is gonna piss me off. But he fought another master, and they did a movie about this fight and how epic it was, and they never really showed there was talk about it, but the conclusion is apparently known between just them. Same thing with Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, which there are fights on camera, but apparently they fought in real life, and there's not a whole there's a lot of hearsay with what really happened and how it went and all this. And I love this shit. Like I love the best known people at their art forms that that I think are known to have done it, because I've always traditionally put Bruce Lee at number one as far as in my heart of hearts of the greatest martial artist of all time. But definitely over the last decade, I hear some more and more, and you hear about some of the accolades of these other martial artists, and you're like, oh shit, I don't know, I don't know, but still, for me, Bruce Lee has always been a cherished name in my heart, and what he's done influenced me with being able to bring this type of culture to me is phenomenal. But so he was the dude, back then, and he started it, getting a lot of people their early interests. Like Jackie Chan was, how would he not be influencing him? And he basically has been influenced me since the 90s. You know what I mean? So I love Jackie Chan. Jet Li, as you mentioned, there's just so much there that is happened because Bruce Lee was the pioneer essentially for all of this. It wasn't the only one, but for the Asian, culture as a whole, if you put him under that umbrella, he was doing that. You had other people that were fighting, and it just wasn't the same when you watched an old Western people just brawling versus an actual martial arts form on screen. So yeah, I can't gush enough about this man. How awesome I think he is. So, but yes, I don't even know where we were at in the story and what we were covering, because I'm getting sidetracked here.
I know we're.
Okay. So some of the cultural influences.
So yeah,
that's right.
So cultural influences. I just had to mention that because I thought it was funny where Lee slaps his student a bunch of times.
Yes,
when teaching him. And I just had to laugh at that and make a note. I thought it was cool with even the Shaolin Temple where they had 4 groups with different colors, red, blue, yellow, and black, sitting around as they're watching, obviously, Bruce Lee fight different people. So I like that. The choreography, to me, at times looked really bad. And if I had to think why it was probably bad, is because Bruce Lee probably had to pull a lot of his stuff, because he probably would have really fucked up a lot of people, I think. Because, Yeah, it definitely didn't look believable, and it looked really awkward a lot of times in the movie too.
So that's where some of the stuff I said has come out more over the recent years. So a lot of people say Bruce Lee was a phenomenal athlete. Like there's stories of him doing fingertip push-ups, like stuff that's unfucking believable. Like pound for pound, like the amount of body fat on this man was probably next to nothing. Like he was like pure muscle, but that doesn't always equate to functional fighting and whatnot. So he was definitely a master of fighting, but to the extent is, I don't think the general public is ever going to know, is there one great ever? I don't know that it's kind of like Michael Jordan and LeBron James to some people. To me, dumb question, why are we even talking about this? But sometimes you're a byproduct of your generation and whatnot. You don't know, you don't experience. I mean, one-on-one and their primes, what are we talking about? I think that's kind of what this could be like. Bruce Lee was, like I said, relatively young. If you give him another decade, is how much is he, better even, So I'm not going into that, but, as far as a fighter goes, he was definitely at least being depicted as badass, top notch. And there's and even in the way of life, I don't think you're going to really find somebody that was a bigger proponent of what he was doing for martial arts and what he did and how he lived that life. And reflected in some of his quotes, his movies, and how he would try to live his life. He was very influential and positive. He wanted to be positive for people. So. I think his fights with the choreography, I think, are also, you got to learn, it's a byproduct of the time. Watch choreography now, and you could look at even some of that versus 30 years, 40 years, given 50 years ago. It's not going to look as good, and it's not going to, because the expectations to one up each other goes up and up and up and up. Jet Li's fight scenes and Jackie Chan's fight scenes, Rumble in the Bronx, holy shit, that would blow any of these fight scenes out the fucking water. That's why Jackie Chan was so amazing. And The Legend of Drunken Master, I've made my kids watch that. Like, there's just certain elements that just watching it happen in live time and relatively and just in sequence, you can control that. But that's not how they did it. It's also more of a sanctioned match versus Rumble in the Bronx was just like a fighting all over the place. So,
but Kevin, like you're saying though, it was the best for its era, because you were kind of alluded to sports about being different in Jordan's era, in LeBron's era, even in Tom Brady's era. Different movies for their era. They were the best, that's why it was the movie of the year of 1972 or 3, I can't recall.
It came out in 73.
So
days after his burial.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And even one of the things I did like story-wise, too, like, obviously as they were following along from him being invited, the flashback scenes with the supporting characters, with Lee's sister and Roper and Williams, again, watching an older movie, you got to look through a different lens. For its time, I thought they did, like, a really good job with that.
Yeah, I mean, times weren't as action-packed back then as they are now. Our level of interest wanes super fast now. Like, that's why people are always on their phones and doing something else at the same time, because the level of focusing on something is not what it was. But back then, if you look at the story of how you were saying, they go back and forth between, flashbacks, it actually I think, plays a pretty good way. So if you're expecting today's cinema from a 50-year-old movie, you're really missing the point of how life works. You can't do that. That's not how you can't expect in a black and white, 1940s film to get great CGI. It wasn't a thing, that's just, I think you as a viewer failing yourself with expectations. But for what it was and how they did it, the choreography was good. It was it's still exciting to watch him use a display of weapons of from the bow to the batons to the nunchucks. Even then was fucking crazy for them to fight and for him to like have the fist to each other and then him hit the guy. How fast he was! It was a display. This was him showing what like this. I'm a badass. That's what this was. Is I'm a fucking badass, and it was absolutely awesome for that reason. I mean, it wasn't even like there was another element like just alluding to that, like as he was sneaking around. Now this could be a sound effect, and it absolutely could, but like you couldn't hear a goddamn thing. And I know they have sound, boomsticks and all that shit for a reason to pick up sound, but you can hear other sound happening and you can't hear a footstep for the life of me. I'm like, was he really that fucking quiet? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or is it one of those things where like, oh yeah, I don't think they would have eliminated it, but they could have definitely minimized it and muffled it. I just don't know. Him handling a fucking cobra. Okay, so I don't know if that was a real cobra. That was a real cobra. The thing is, I don't know if when he lets it go, if he's like when he taps that shit on the fucking head, like that's a fucking cobra. I don't know. Like I don't know. Did they defang it or devenomize it? I don't know. But like that shit's crazy. I would not be surprised if he looked into try to doing that himself or even had experience with it. Like. Because, I mean, and that, once again, just being able to do that on the fly as the Cobra's there, badass.
That was wild. I'm like, he just did that shit like it was nothing.
Just fucking shit.
I'm like, I don't know how I feel. I don't know if I like this or I hate this.
But that's a real snake, so you can't say it didn't happen, you know what I mean? Maybe there was, like I said, safeguards, but that's a real snake, so he's really doing it. He's like, hey, get your shit together with this snake.
And I didn't like what happened after that, and when he threw the snake in the radio room, the guys were like, fuck this. They jumped through the window.
Wouldn't you?
And then immediately, like 3 seconds later, the alarms start going off. I'm like, how would they have known this is like an infiltration type thing?
That I was a little like iffy about. That was a little. I don't know about that, which is fair, but like still handling.
They knew he was coming.
Like there were things that were so retro that I absolutely loved about this. Just the kills. The kills, they always tend to zoom in on the face, and they're doing that. Like the most iconic one of all time, like for when it comes to Bruce Lee, is he does like they even slow it down. They like add some music in, and he goes and he jumps on the guy's face, and he does the whoa! Like, dude, that is so like if you make a what that is always forever associated with Bruce Lee. Tell me it's not. For any video game, if you've ever heard, doesn't matter.
It's not.
You're a fucking liar, and you know it. You're just.
The scene I liked that he Kev is when he was fighting the one guy, and he like falls to his butt, and I think the guy was jumping at him, and he just kicks up and kicks him in the nuts. I was like, what was that?
So, like that scene where he just like is showing off his speed. He jumps on the guy, and then he like. I assume breaks his neck as he jumps on his face or something like that because they zoom out or they zoom in on his face and he's like, yeah, I'm fucking good. Oh man. So like there's just something like that you get from those throwback 70s martial arts films that are there. So yeah, overall the story, once again, he gets his kind of revenge on that. They having the Williams, the black guy, he's fighting very retro. His style is there, very influential of the 70s, kind of black, but also just 70s culture in general. He seems like he would have been at a disco for sure.
Well, he got jumped by fucking cops, basically.
Yeah, trying to.
I'm like, oh man.
But once again,
he beats the ass.
That was a byproduct of the time, and not saying that doesn't happen now, but it was definitely par for the course back then. I think that was way more normal, and it still wasn't really out of the era of probably some desegregation still happening even then, because that was still early 70s. I get the social injustice era with a lot of the black movement. So it was definitely still relatively fresh, I imagine. So I think that was a good way to bring light on that. There's actually a quote I have attached to some of that I want to get into, but and then him fighting Han is the former apprentice turned crooked, like that his angle and how he's got that. I think the one thing that is almost sad is you don't ever learn how he's got the missing hand, because Han, you don't realize he's got a missing hand, but until later on, as you kind of see there's a hand display and you connect dots, and he's got like different attachments and whatnot that he uses. Like, it'd be interesting to know how that happened, but you don't need to know in essence. But yeah, so that comes to play a role more in the end when he's like putting this stuff and slicing and dicing, and Bruce Lee's got those iconic scratch marks over his face and his chest and his ab. Like,
now, one thing I thought that was kind of interesting was when Mr. Han was throwing the apples in the air, and the girls are basically throwing the pin daggers into the actual apples, and then he mentioned that those are his daughters and are his bodyguards, which that was kind of interesting. And then Roper later's on like nobody is as loyal as Daddy's little girl.
Yeah,
so there was some interesting elements there.
Were they actually his girls or his daughters, or those are the ones he like kept specifically from prostitutes he stole, or like women he stole, and was like, yeah, you work for me, I'll make sure you're okay and you can live like a princess or something like that. That once again, you don't need that element, but you get the point. Like, because there's at least half a dozen girls with him like that. So it's like, did he really father that many girls? Or I don't know. But they're like what he said with Roper said about nobody's as protective as Daddy's girl or something like that. That understandable with that line. So I don't have any crazy notes on some of this, but I do have quotes I want to get into. So that's
my favorite quote was from Bruce Lee. Boards don't hit back.
Yes, baby. I had that one too. Boards don't hit back, because so the guy that killed or is involved in killing his sister is O'Hara, and he's trying to show he's a badass. He's got the scar on his, and that's how he got the scar, and they did show it. Is he got the scar from Bruce Lee's sister? She's like got his face, she cut his face, but he's like punches the board, and that's when Bruce is like, boards don't hit back. I'm like, oh, you're about to get fucked up, motherfucker. No, I got some good ones. I thought it was great. So Roper was in debt because he was a gambling addict, and so early on, he kept, when they get on this boat, it was pretty funny. He's like, you want to bet? And he kept saying that a couple times throughout the movie. I was like, all right, that's a good line. I like that. I think one of the most profound, maybe not the best, but one of the most profound quotes was actually said by Williams. And he actually had a lot of good lines. I think for me, it was very profound because I think people hear this one specific word, which I'll mention, and they think like maybe of one type of culture, but I'm a kind of person that really, I know what it means when it's used. So he says, ghettos are the same all over the world. They stink. And I thought that was such a great line because, especially coming from a black man at that type, where you get certain stigmas and representation, and people think of the ghettos, and he's a person that just says like, look, I can see it, because they're on a boat, which was weird because he was being like shuttled on like this like boat taxi, right? And instead of having like two oars like we would typically here, they had one and they just moved it back and forth. You remember that?
But maybe that's how it's done in Eastern European countries. So
well, no, this was in fucking Asia. This was in China. So, well, at least somewhere in the South Pacific, right? I don't remember where the actual island's supposed to take place, but he like they did that, and I'm like, that seems like it could be more effective until you watch the people on the boat. What happens is the people sitting on the boat are going like fucking this, and it was making me laugh. And I'm like, all right, maybe it's not more like convenient or comfortable sitting because you go side to side, but if you're talking about just means of transportation, having one oar seems simpler and just going back and forth than trying to have two where you might take more. It was making me laugh because it's just going I was like, am I in the bathtub just going back and back? Anyways, So they're in they're what seems to me like it's supposed to be around China or some Asian area, and it's just boats lined up. And he says the ghettos are the same everywhere, and it's like it doesn't matter what culture you are, what ethnicity, where you're from. You can tell a very bad trash ghetto area just by kind of being around it because they're the same everywhere. And hearing him say that and understand that and coming from that area, especially then when I think it was starting to become more profound, especially for black people in America and whatnot. That to me I thought was super significant. Coming from a black man talking about the Asian people, because it's like you can recognize it. I can drive by people. It doesn't matter where, different states. You can tell what a ghetto is, and that's just a word, but it means the same thing, and just with different terms for races, cultures, whatever. And I thought that was super significant as far as that. Some other great quotes. And this is actually philosophy of Bruce Lee. When he was on the boat and he got that Parsons guy off on the other thing because he was being a jackass, he says the art of fighting without fighting. That he's talked of that, and there is a real symbolic nature to monks as far as that goes. No, there are some monks like they call like Shaolin monks that can really fight, but then there's like Buddhists that they're pacifists. They're not trying to be aggressive at all, but just in general, like you're better off doing that and not becoming too physically altercations if you can do that. I think I did quote just a whoa when he does the stop, because that's obviously super awesome. And then the last two I got here are from Williams, right before he's about to die. That scene where he was talking to Han was so amazing, and he's like, and he's questioning him. He's like, "I'll be too busy looking good." That was so.
And that's when Williams was fighting him in the office, and then like he was getting his ass kicked, and then like women are getting high and smoking. And
shit. And he's getting his brains beat in. And then the one right before that fight happens, and Han's like, "Well, you could tell me blah blah blah. You'll regret it." He goes, "Man, you come right out of a comic book." And I'm like, dude, these lines. Like, you say right themselves, but they're so good. And so, yeah, I think his portrayal of his character, unfortunately, he dies. But, oh, my God, spoiler, right? It was so good. So, yeah, that's all I really got on the whole movie as a whole. So I'll stop there. You got anything else?
Just the the Blu-ray I rented was like skipping at some point. So, I did have a note where Mr. Han put this like Wolverine type of claw on his left hand, and then spoiler, but Han misses with his spear through this mirror wall, and then he actually foreshadows, I guess that foreshadows because he actually dies from that same spear as Lee kicks him into the spear into the wall, basically.
Gotcha, bitch.
So, but no, that's pretty much all I had.
So, all right, how you rating this, bro?
I'm gonna go slight thumbs up.
I'm just a thumbs up, man. This is. I don't see. I was trying to think when I was like, "Is this the first movie I remember getting me into martial arts or not?" Like, because if you watch action, like, oh, I was like as a kid, like, oh yeah, gun shooting, beating ass, that's awesome. As a boy that I was, but as far as like actual martial arts, this could have been it. I can't pinpoint one in particular, but I was like, yeah, this is definitely early on, regardless, as far as it goes for me. But yeah, definitely thumbs up, especially the effect on me. But also, if you actually look at the movie itself, the elements, I think phenomenal. So
let's move over to casting and acting.
Yes.
Was there any casting that you didn't like? Because again, I think the cast for what it had and who they had play him was all pretty actually great, good actually. So I was curious if there was anything you didn't like.
I don't know. It's hard because I wasn't even alive in the 70s.
I wasn't either.
but as far as significant value of who's casted when, sometimes that can be a thing, right? Like time periods, like some people are casted just because they're like Kevin Hart's doing movies right now because Kevin Hart got big with, some of the early movies, and he's kind of, and I don't want to say riding his own coattails, but it's not like he's putting out gems all the time now. So it's like you could be a byproduct of time period. But for what they did do, for who they did cast, I liked them all. I think one person that I love a lot, and he was, after this, I think he was typecasted as a villain, was Bolo. Bolo, that's his actual name, Bolo Young, I think. I see, maybe this might not have been his first movie. Oh, God, what's the fucking movie? There's another movie he's in versus Van Damme. I do believe it's Bloodsport. But between that and this, I don't know which one was first. Yeah, he was going to be a villain forever. I think I remember seeing one movie where he was a protagonist, and he was a good. I don't know if he was even supposed to be good, but I saw him and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're supposed to be killing people. It was just weird. Like, you get so used to seeing somebody be in a role. It is one of those things where you just love that. So where we like, does it Bloodsport is before or after that? I think it's after. Oh wait, this is 80s. But no, like, yeah, okay, 88. So yeah, Bloodsport is probably where he gets a lot of notoriety. But Bolo, you could recognize him right away. He was actually an awesome dude and had a lot of.
But his actual real name is Young Aziz, or however you say
it. So that was more of his acting name then.
Well, yeah, better known as, so yeah.
Bolo Young. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty common for some people. But yeah, I love him. I thought I've seen it in a bunch of movies. He's always awesome. So I always try to make sure people, like, he gets that good praise because he was always awesome for my influence. But yeah, the acting is in that frame. So you got to take it as far as what it is. I assume it was on par and relatively good for 70s movies from what I've seen. I don't think there's anybody I didn't like or whatever. So yeah, it is what it is. I guess.
Production did hire prostitutes to play Hans Harem.
No fucking way.
That's what it says. So that was interesting.
Holy
now,
shit.
Bruce Lee originally wanted to cast Chuck Norris as Hans' bodyguard, O'Hara, but Bob Wall was his second choice. So this is something that I ended up finding out, Kev. I know who Chuck Norris is, but I never actually watched any of his work. And fun fact, Chuck Norris fought Bruce Lee in a movie a year earlier in The Way of the Dragon. I know our dad was a big fan of Chuck Norris.
Walker, Texas Ranger, motherfucker.
You know what
Hell
TV
yeah.
show in the 90s Dad used to watch. So
yeah.
I never actually watched that show, but I know Dad was hardcore about Walker, Texas Ranger.
So that's the thing is, like, if you actually look at some of his actual career and stuff like that, his acting roles didn't really depict his fighting as well, because in his acting roles it was more about like profound lines and stature and his look and stuff like that,
and not his experience
and not his actual fighting ability and whatnot. Like, he shows off a little bit, but it's like Walker Texas Ranger was more about him as an actor and playing a role. But he was like a 7-time undefeated champ or some shit. Like, dude, his accolades are like that's what I'm saying is Bruce Lee might not have ever been that tournament fighter like Chuck Norris is. So that's why people are like, he was a better fighter than Bruce Lee is. But just because you don't have tournament accolades doesn't mean you aren't a fighter. So that's why it's like, I don't know that we'll ever know.
Those are fun debates.
Fun debates. But once again, from my understanding is they did have that, because Bruce Lee, from my understanding, was a little bit of an ego kind of centric. Like, he wanted to be that awesome and that, but he was a good person, but he still had this sense of it. Like, there's actors out there. Who's the guy that was in the movie Gladiator? The
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. So I don't know if you've heard stories about Russell Crowe. Apparently, some of the reason why he started fading out with some of his acting roles is once he'd get an acting role, he would get this fucking like alpha a maniac kind of thing where he would go to bars and try to fight people because he wanted to be that, like he wanted to show off, like I'm the strongest, best, I can fight any. Like he had that mentality still. Maybe it's waxed a little bit, but yeah, he got himself in some troubles from what I hear. This is classic 90s hearsay throw stuff. If you really want to know and correct me, you can do the internet, but apparently that happened. So I heard from what I remember reading at certain time points and watching is Bruce Lee had a little bit of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to fight anyone that he was ever around with that. So there was apparently
actually we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Bruce Lee was Chuck Norris is badass, and the fact that he tried to get him there. I know, like they were actually good friends though. They were cool. They liked each other, and I think the film that you were talking about was one of the only ones they have on screen of
Way
them.
of the Dragon. Yeah, they had a fight scene.
So I do believe Bruce Lee won that, but it was choreography. So it was like, it was meant. It wasn't an actual like fight, but apparently they did have one off screen at some point, and it's like, dude, to be a fly on a wall, like, oh my god, like, so.
No, that's all I had pretty much, other than like, yeah, the choreography was just really bad, and the actors really touching. I mean, we already kind of talked about how that's probably evolved and is a lot better.
But this was characters we were still on, yes, right? So we'll go forward, but characters, I'd say I'm going thumbs up. I'll just go thumbs up. Yeah, I'm going thumbs up. Because I don't think there was a bad one, but, it's hard to judge a little bit from that old of a movie.
Sound of Music. Whoa!
Listen, you know me. Not my favorite subject. I absolutely, filthy, disgustingly love old school 70s martial arts sounds. They make me so fucking happy. They hear the every little bit of it. I'm a fucking child watching that, so happy, glaringly just the blocks, the actual hits. I fucking love in the worst way. So I just want to state that first and foremost.
Sound effects before the movie. So fun fact.
Oh my god.
Bruce Lee actually had laryngitis during shooting, and so the production team used animal recordings, such as adolescent seagulls, for his high-pitched fight shrieks. So all this whoa and stuff like that, it's probably actually seagulls. So, and obviously they dubbed in like a lot of the punches and slaps and falls and grunts and all that. But yeah, I actually read that. I was like, oh, this is pretty actually fun.
Yeah, but that's based off of him. He probably still did it, like, because there's other stuff he's in that he does it in too. It's not like this was his first film. This was literally his last full film before passing. So it's noted that it's just, probably a little. That's funny. That's definitely funny.
What did you think of the main theme, Kev?
The song?
Can you think of it? Basically sounded like a cross between 70s blues, James Bond, and an adult porno flick, because it made me laugh.
Well, what I was gonna say is even the scene where they start showing, like, I think it's like downtown China in the beginning or something. Maybe it's a little more in the early part, but it's there. Like, excuse me. It was all, as I alluded to earlier, it's all stems around the fact that this is supposed to be trying to show Chinese culture to the Western civilization. So they honed in on that. So believe it or not, for me, I actually liked that element. It wasn't anything like I'm like, oh yeah, I know that song or anything like that.
Well, yeah, because there was none of that. I mean, even the composer who did the film score, like, he incorporated funk and traditional film and jazz into the soundtrack, but he also did sample sounds from China, Korea, and Japan, because they had like the strumming music when they were on the boats and stuff like that, which that to me was awesome and stuff.
But that, because that, it just added to the element of what the Eastern culture was representing. And yeah, it made you feel like you were watching something that's starting to blend two different cultures, because it was, and that's what it was trying to do. And for that, I absolutely loved it.
And that's where I'm happy when a show or soundtrack takes inspiration from others, but it just seemed too much of like a direct copy of James Bond as far as that. Because even like, again, you think of a later like Mission Impossible for whatever, you have that spy infiltration and it took inspiration from James Bond, but it didn't seem like it directly copied it like they did with a lot of the song and story aspect of that from that. And that's the part that I didn't like about the Enter the Dragon part.
But what you have to understand is that was the 70s. That was everything back then. You copied it because if one thing found success, you were trying to manipulate that same success. So black, was it 70s black films, black exploitation is a thing where they literally, it's like the current movies where you would see like an all black cast. That's what that was. And they would mimic the exact same thing like a white film would do, but like do all black cast, and they would do the fighting. It's like, it's the exact same thing. It's a whole genre of movies. It's black exploitation or something like that. So that was by design. This was by design. Everything is by design back, more so back then than now. Now we want to be like, oh, I'm different. But back then we're like, oh, this is just what other people like. Well, why don't I just make them Asian and everyone will like it? Like that was the thought process. So I am not surprised by that. That is my understanding of things. So maybe that's where the difference is. Like, if you're looking at it just from your lens versus mine, it's like I've come to, at least from my experience and knowledge, understand like that's what they were trying to do. That's like, go back to black and white movies. Why are they all almost the same? Casablanca and some of all those, because they were trying to just catch everyone's coattails. And once somebody was a good actress or actor, or the public loved them, they were casted into everything because the public loved them. So they wanted to exploit that over and over and over. And then once they lost those ratings and dollars, guess what? Well, we fucking don't care about you anymore. That still happens though, you know? So I don't know. I just, it is how it looked and how it sounded is kind of what I would expect from a 70s movie. Literally. Like if they look the same, they're kind of grainy, the acting slow, the storyline could be slow, and then you might just hear like these sound effects of pa, koosh, ka, crunch, and it's like
the sound effects were amazing, even being dubbed in.
Oh, God.
They were. I mean, between the footsteps, the weapons,
lack thereof, Bruce Lee silent ass,
yes. Punches, and the fact that they use sequels is just funny to me. I didn't have any issues with that at all. So you have anything else you want to add, or you want to go ahead and rate Sound of Music?
Let's go ahead and do this.
Yeah, I'm gonna go slightly above mid.
The rare thumbs up for Kevin for Sound and Music.
I'm going slightly above mid.
I'm so fucking biased. Oh my God, I'm terrible.
Yeah, just a little bit. But we're gonna go to special effects, wardrobe editing, visuals, as far as that. So you got to first say this is. I mean, I could actually probably move this into the last section, but I'll just talk kind of a little bit about the editing, because the fighting sequences were staged by Bruce Lee, which is no surprise because he's goddamn fucking legend, and he was originally conceived as a straightforward Chinese version of James Bond, which is no surprising. You asked about where it's supposed to be depicted at, Kevin. It was actually shot in location in Hong Kong, and that's where they were trying to depict it from.
Okay.
And the dialogue and sound effects were done, obviously, in post, of course. And then the Hans Island was actually known as Palm Villa near the coastal town of Stanley in Hong Kong. But that villa is now demolished, so it's no longer around.
Yeah. You didn't need a lot of special effects, like graphic-wise, for this, and you didn't get it. I think the special effects and whatnot was mostly visuals were mostly actual Chinese culture. So I think that did itself. Locations, views, how life was, the boats, like I said, on the shore of the ghetto, the dancing, the party, the banquet, the attire. I think that was the allure. as far as the visuals go. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't cost anything, but as far as needing to add effects, I don't know how much they needed to do other than, just make sure that matched.
Well, they did actually film without sound, and all that stuff was added in post-production.
Okay, so that's part of production, but as far as visuals go,
yeah,
they have to do a sound effects, so you have effects and whatnot, but the visual element is kind of just face value. The choreography for martial arts in general right now is it's not good, but at the time it was good, and that's what you have to take it as.
Speaking of that a little bit, though, which you'll appreciate this and probably would have loved being a fly on the wall, Kev, Bruce Lee, after he had been persuaded or challenged, did fight several real fights with the film extras and some set intruders during filming.
What do you mean set intruders?
Dude, I found a reading up on this, which to me would have just been like, nah, you ain't the shit. And I just got fucked up, bro.
Yeah, like, whatever. But that's the thing is, like, people challenged him. And there's, like, his biopics and stuff like that. He's had a couple of them where it's like he's had to deal with that because people, like, are like, oh, you're just an actor. No, like, he can really kick ass. Now, like I said, is he the greatest? In my heart of hearts, he is. And, like, now, like, it was always him, and then Chuck Norris is, like, right next to him almost, or right underneath him. But now, I don't know. If I'm being honest, it was always, you keep his name out your mouth kind of thing. He is the man. Where now it's like, oh, my God, maybe Norris potentially, like I said, his accolades are there, but I don't know. And, God, there's the other guy, is like his Sonny something, I think is what it was, where they made a movie with him and Bruce Lee, and it was supposed to be a true encounter where he came here to the U.S. to try to detour Bruce Lee from doing martial arts and teaching us. And what happened is, you looking at it?
Bruce Lee's Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, a drama that heavily features a fictionalized, long-standing rivalry between Bruce Lee and a fighter named Johnny Soon, played by Johnny Cheung.
So it's fictionalized because of the long-term rivalry. So I don't know that that's actually true, but from my understanding, there was supposed to have been an actual fight he had where somebody was trying to stop him from teaching. Like that was a thing. At least that's how I learned it. Like there was like people definitely in the Chinese culture did not want him teaching Americans about their culture. And so apparently there was a fighter that was trying to stop him, and then it just didn't stop. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. But, this is hearsay until proven otherwise. I'm still believing that shit because in the heart of my heart, I love it. So, anyways, the special effects, the snake, as I said, fucking crazy. There were some explosions, nothing crazy. The nunchucks and using the batons and the bow. Oh my God!
I don't know if I actually caught that in the movie. That might have been when my Blu-ray was skipping. I lost like 10 minutes in the movie.
Oh, okay. So him fighting, like, I don't know how much he pulled from his attacks because it's not like you had a crazy amount back then. You might have just have to get hit. But yeah, that would suck. If you've ever seen somebody really use nunchucks, you're like, whoa, there's just a couple pieces of wood. Dude, they look like they were not friendly. But so I've liked, out of everything, I have one bad thing. And that thing is the blood. The blood looked atrocious. It looked like you just put food coloring in water. Like, it was bad looking. It didn't even look like it looked like a watery drink versus like a thick, viscous material or something. So that was bad. That was really bad, even for
we're talking 70s, but, one interesting aspect I thought, not necessarily special effects, but for the landscape was like the swinging wall mirror that goes in the mirror rooms.
The room.
It was like a damn fun house, which
that was cool.
Worked in Mr. Han's favor for a bit. But I did read as far as when Bruce Lee kind of started breaking the actual like mirrors. He did hold some iron in his hand, and he was just like breaking them, which then gave him the advantage back because then Mr. Han couldn't just hide anymore.
Yeah, that was part of the plot.
Lurk around, yeah.
Yeah, so part of that goes back to like his teachings, where they like, okay, stop focusing on the vision and then use your kind of other elements of, and that's a lot of like teachings you get from like martial arts. Is it's not, fighting isn't just visual and stuff like that. There's feels, there's hearing and stuff like that. There's lots of movies that talk about some of the stuff. There's like blind people that know martial arts and things along the lines, and those are real. I don't know how common it is, but that is real. So it's just a means of understanding. Like it was trying to allude to that, but
I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me.
There's that, but that's stuff based off of real like experiences. So like I said, how many fucking blind shoguns or monks are there that can really use a weapon? Probably 3, like there's not really got to be a lot, but over history there's got to be at least, you figure you've had a couple dozen or something like that, like that are actually exceptional. I would be very surprised if there wasn't. So
all right, I don't have anything else to add. You want to rate the
special effects,
editing, and visuals?
Yeah, I'm gonna go I will go mid thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm gonna do mid thumbs up as well too.
So just mostly because the 70s aesthetic still is the 70s aesthetic.
Yeah,
I love it, but it's
it didn't
not
blow
great.
me away and stuff like that, but it wasn't terrible. So
so
we'll move to emotional connection, rewatchability, critical and emotional response of the greatest martial artist movie of all time.
So couple things. I would not say this is the greatest martial arts movie of all time. I would not. However, it is one of the most influential ones, and I stand by that because of what it's done, and the fandom and what it's done to this world, and the influence it's had. I feel like there's definitely better ones out there. I know one of my favorites is a Jackie Chan one. The Legend of Drunken Master might be one of my favorites. It's got a good storyline, but the fight scene at the end, holy shit, it's like fucking 10-15 minutes of it seems like just straight fighting, and it's like when you can do that and it looks more realistic, oh yeah. So I do believe Jet Li's got some amazing, I think it's is it Iron Fist or
I was gonna say your favorite was Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Dude, Legend of the Flying Guillotine's a crazy
Never
one.
Heard of that?
So yeah, there's some doozies out there for sure. Like there's plenty
I don't know why I just randomly thought of, wasn't there a movie called Shaolin Soccer?
Yes, there was, and I did watch that one. And yeah, once you get into the like was it Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that's when you lose me a little bit with some rewatchability, because I don't like the they purposely use an element of like fantasy when they start flying around, and instead of like just a jump, it's more like a float, and they cross like 4 houses and shit.
Like Liu Kang?
Yeah, you lose me with some of that. It's just too, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was the first one that really was egregious to me, where it was like I'm just flying practically but floating, and I don't like those as much. But was it Legends from China? There's like 1, 2, or 3. I have some of these movies, like for real. I can give you some good ones that I love, but once again, not even 90s martial arts film versus 70s, they're different. And that 70s form, there's an appreciation, but the lines are like, it's almost like you're intentionally making a bad B movie, but it wasn't meant to be. It was like top tier stuff, and you're like, this is so bad, but it's so good, I love it. Like that's kind of like when we talked about Toxic Avenger. It's hard to make a bad movie intentionally. It's really hard to make it good because of how bad it is. That's almost what these 70s movies are, but not really. But there's an element of that. So but like I said, there's definitely better choreography. There's definitely better action. There's definitely more and better fighting. There's definitely better plot lines. The movie War, I believe, is Jet Li and Jason Statham. That plot fucking gets you at the end. Like, it's fucking, the martial arts in that movie's awesome. So,
but it wasn't. It wouldn't be potentially even made if it wasn't inspired, obviously.
For sure. That's the point. Like, Jason Statham, a British guy with Jet Li, I don't know his background, but these are things that all happened because of Enter the Dragon. Like, that is literally the pinnacle of it. So maybe you don't love this, but as far as being able to set the stage of where it is and what it's done, I don't think it's got to be your Mount Rushmore as far as what it's done for cinema with kung fu and fighting and action. It's up there. So
yeah, and one of the things you did mention earlier, Kevin, was, or one thing I did mention and explain, was how I didn't enjoy as far as them using kind of the James Bond story, and you kind of said, well, they were catering to the North American, probably Britain audience on that, latched onto that James Bond sense. One thing I do think they really did a good job with is the story featured a lot of heroic protagonists who are not only Asian, but the white and black. And so the producers actually wanted a film that appealed to the widest possible international audience. I think they did a phenomenal job of doing that, even though it was based on mainly Asian, but bringing in Williams as far as into doing that, I thought was a great job.
I mean, hearing that makes me think. There's not a whole lot of like Middle East representation here, but at the time, a lot of notable cultures, and I think in film, for filmography, you have a lot of the UK, European, and American. So you might consider more that white, but black people even then too, because they were getting some definitely some notoriety with films and acting and all that. And then being able to jump in and have the Asian, because you had essentially Roper, Williams, and Lee, and they didn't fight each other. Roper and Lee were, or Williams and Roper were friends from the war, and you just were able to make they put all these positive light on this little trio here that were all here, and they were good. And like, they didn't, even Williams being confronted, he fought and didn't give in to Hans. So it's like, it was a way to really put up this timepiece of bridging so much of a gap that I think you learn to fall in love with certain elements, and at least I did.
Yeah, and that kind of actually translated also into the marketing of the film, which to me some of this I found fascinating, Kev, because it was heavily advertised in the United States before it's released. They spent, in a budget, think back to the 70s, Kevin, over $1 million on advertising, and it was never seen before and really comprehensive. The studio offered free karate classes, produced thousands of those flip books, comic books, posters, photographs, news releases, interviews, and public appearance for the stars, which, again, that also probably helped with, even the story being decent as it was, probably helped, obviously, with a lot of the sales of people going to actually see the movie.
Yeah, I would agree. So as far as any sort of emotional connection and real watchability, I think, honestly, it speaks for itself. At least, like I said, I might be biased. A
couple more things I kind of did want to touch upon as far as, some of what the critics were saying. Most influential kung fu film, referenced in all manner of media. The plotline and characters influence storytellers today. Impact is particularly felt in revolutionating the way the film is portrayed in African American and Asian and traditional martial arts. You also have, on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.8 out of 10. Critical consensus, badass to the max. Enter the Dragon is the ultimate kung fu movie and fitting. and untimely Bruce Lee swan song, which I think is very actually fitting. Now, I'm not a big fan of this, but I know one of my good friends is. But the Dragon Ball manga and anime franchise that came out in '84 was heavily, inspired by this, which the creator was a huge fan of. I'm not personally a big Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z fan, but I know there's tons of them out there. A lot of the things I saw growing up, though, even though this is, again, me and Kevin weren't born in the 70s, but the inspiration from this movie inspired a lot of the beat-em-up brawler games. So we saw games like Double Dragon, which actually surprisingly had two enemies in it, named Roper and Williams, which I found out. And the film's tournament-style plot inspired numerous fighting games such as Tekken, Street Fighter, and also Mortal Kombat.
I do believe it's Tekken. Yes, Tekken literally has a character. What's his name? It's basically Bruce Lee. It literally is everything Bruce Lee is. They didn't give him his name Lee or something like that, but it's yeah.
I mean, you have Liu Kang.
Liu Kang. I mean, his representation is everlasting, and that's the thing is I don't know if I'd be curious to know. Maybe I'll ask my son, like, do you know who Liu Kang is supposed to represent or something like that? Like, do they even know even throughout the generations? Because obviously Bruce Lee was gone before I was around, but I learned about him afterwards. So being that it's, 40 to 50 years later is my, like, that's how influential he could be. Because even if he's not aware of who he is, you like the kind of style that he's helped bring to the masses. So yeah, that's an interesting information to find out.
So emotional connection, rewatchability. Do you have any other points you want to rate this, Kev?
Why are we even asking?
I'm going double thumbs up on this just because of how impactful it actually is out there. I mean, it may not be the best kung fu movie, but it's definitely the most popular one of all time, I would think.
If you understand what it represents, then you understand everything. You know what I mean? Like, as I always say to my kids when I try to teach them, hey, you want to watch this movie? And like, look, you have to understand, like, there's no cell phones 20 years ago, not in this manner that we know now, right? They might have the early portable phones, as they call them, but like literally the fucking brick from the Night at the Roxbury, you know what I mean? Like
Nokia phones.
Exactly, like Nokia, like bricks that are still alive somewhere in the ground and still work. You know what I mean? Like, you have to understand, if you're watching something on certain time periods, like, you don't, even a film made now, if it's set in the 1800s, you're like, well, there's no phone, so this is bullshit. No, like, you have to be in the mindset of what that all interprets, because things change. Jaws was one of the scariest movies that came out at the time. That was in the 70s. Now, like, kids are like, this is scary. Like they're like, like, even the rating system, something that was rated PG or R is like maybe PG-13 nowadays. The only thing that really puts it in that category still would be language, and even then, they've gone more lenient because society has changed of how we interpret things. You have to really fucking murder somebody in their face to get it like R-rated, or is it just death? Like, 30 years ago would have probably got you an R, even if it wasn't really a heart attack or some shit. It's just different times. So if you can't put yourself in that element, you can't. But this is a forever film for me. You know what I mean? Just love it. So yeah, thumbs up all the way.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I would say I'm gonna go overall thumbs up.
Yeah.
I'll do an A- thumbs up.
You have to. Oh, did you ever hear what Bruce Lee's favorite drink was?
Oh God! No.
What's
Well, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. If you enjoy our podcast, definitely support us. You can listen to us on Tuesdays on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Launch at 7 a.m. in the morning, 8 a.m. if you're that up that early, and then on YouTube on Tuesdays.